Upgrades.
Hey, what's going on there, everybody? This is Sammy Leggett here representing Team JVS, here to give you guys another movie review straight from Sundance 2023. I'm talking about Rye Lane. This was directed by Raine Allen-Miller. This is starring David Johnson, Vivian Oparah, and basically Vivian plays the role of Yaz and David plays the role of Dom. Dom is this, how do I put it? he's not necessarily a introvert. He's an accountant. He's outgoing. He's got a friend that kind of is trying to auction off some of his paintings, and he's dealing with some stuff because he's just dealt with a breakup. He's in the bathroom. He's crying his eyes out, and it just happens to be that Yaz hears him and kind of recognizes the shoes. He comes out later. And she was like asking him, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah." And from that point, from that moment until days moving forward, they are linked in whatever way that looks like. Whether they're spending time communicating, whether they are kind of invading each other's personal space, generally just getting to know each other. It's such a very fascinating, romantic story. The only movie that kind of comes to my head, it just came out last year, like executive produced and created by Kid Cudi, and I'm talking about Intergalactic. Intergalactic is, yes, a animated film, but it's one of the better, dramatic, romantic, storylines that I'd seen in a very long time. And this is out of the same vein, but it takes it to another level because this is taking place in South London, and these kids are pretty young. They kind of already at a place in college. They're trying to get to a certain place in their career. Yaz is trying to be a costume designer, whereas Dom, he's an accountant, but he kind of is trying to find purpose again because after the breakup, he hasn't been able to really maintain himself or who he is, and he's also staying with his mom and his parents. And so when they meet and collide, it becomes a very interesting slew of lines of dialogue and interesting characters along the way, because for Dom, he's got his ex, he's got his best friend and kind of how that went down, whereas with Yaz, she's got a really big family. And she also kind of had like a bad falling out herself. I don't want to spoil too much of this, but I'm just going to tell you, man, Vivian and David were great. Their chemistry is so natural. It's so weird because Vivian, the way she kind of plays her character, you don't really know what her intentions are. Like, that it's very interesting how they're connecting very quickly. And when you do a deep dive into character Yaz, there's a lot of different threads that you can kind of look at and see like, oh, I didn't notice that before. Whereas with Dom, he's pretty much an open book. You know who he is. It's more so about getting to know who he could become. And the more time he spends with Yaz, the more he just starts to brighten up in ways that you kind of like, oh, it's just so entertaining. It's entertaining to see her become uncomfortable and letting her guard down as opposed to being the cool, collect one. And seeing him with all his guards up go and fully immerse himself into a brand new, fresh experience. Acting is great. I mean, the story is really good. I feel like I could kind of dissect different things about this. Like, for instance, like the cinematography for this is so different and engaging because they use like the fisheye like lens, where it kind of like shows a full pattern lens, where if you're going from this angle to this angle, it's in the same motion because the lens literally is seeing everything. But you're looking from some. There's a shot where they're kind of leaving a apartment. Apartment is coming from this way, and they go and move that way, but it's all in the same of that frame. Whereas like the camera's not going anywhere, it's just the lens is opening up to a different direction. And that's fascinating because a lot of times when that happens with that type of lens, it doesn't work well. Like it's generally used for like open landscape or like an aerial sequence that's kind of going downward. Whereas with this, they use it quite often, specifically when they're going from street to street. Because the other thing about Rye Lane is it is actually a location, and like there's a market. Is common. It's so fascinating to me about the story is that it starts today where they connect. Whereas any time before now, they could have always connected. And I think that's the fascinating thing about any relationship. Like, there are so many different infinite possibilities of you meeting the person that you're significantly with now that just kind of never happened. And then when it did, or when it does, it changes your life forever. I think that's the beauty of this romantic narration. Not only the fact that they're, you know, doing it well, but I think they're being directed well. I think that there's something to how Raine is handling their character motivations and kind of what they really want, and also the reality around them. It's not just like a cookie cutter resolve either. Like there are consequences to actions. There are things that are said, and it makes for great characters. I just really enjoyed this movie. It's so weird to say because it was one of the ones I was like, nah, I don't know about this. And then I watched it, I was like, this is actually really good. I'd rest this at like a 9 out of 10. I think you would really enjoy it. It comes out March the 3rd, I believe, 2023. And I think you'll get something out of it. Go and take your significant other to see it. You know, I mean, even if not, like, just from a family standpoint, like there's certain family tropes that kind of happens with Yaz's family, as well as even like some things you pick up with Dom's family. It's just interesting to watch them converge, not even get together, but just converse and communicate and understand each other so that the other person can benefit. I think when I think about 100 Days of Summer, right? Like that feels like it's just a specific, you know, romance, this, that, and other. I feel like there's other things and threads in this that make this so much more interesting in certain moments. Even though it seems such a small scale story, there's a lot of richness to it. Let me know what you guys think of Rye Lane. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Definitely go and check out more coverage we have from Sundance 2023. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace, people.
Falling out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind, oh Lord.